you know something about our party, but as far as the Hands of China campaign is concerned, it's a campaign that was launched in response to intensified hostility against China, which was actually deliberately started to coincide with the then impending Beijing Olympics in order to spoil these Olympics, and every trick was resorted to by imperialism to spoil these games. Sadly for them, and joyfully for us, the Beijing Olympics were a perfect example of what socialist countries do best, i.e. they put on festivals of friendship, peace, and gymnastics and sports and everything in a way that no other place can do. Hands of China is an organization which inherits the best traditions of the previous friendship societies in this country. From the League Against Imperialism, the Friends of the Chinese People, which lasted from 1927 to 37, China Campaign Committee from 1937 to 49, British China Friendship Association from 1949 to 60s, Society for Anglo-Chinese Understanding from 1965, it still carries on, and of course, Hands of China. They were all there in their own ways to show solidarity with China and to express friendship with China. And we are in exactly the same tradition. We are the latest, and I won't say we are the best because they all did their best, and they all did their best to support China. Why do we mark this National Day? Well, we mark this National Day because China means a lot, not only to itself, but to the world around. If you contrast China in 1949, a miserable place, which prior to 1949 had been oppressed by imperialism, by warlordism, by feudalism, bureaucratic capitalism, and Chinese people had no control over their affairs. Any European power could take its gunboats, bombard the cities of China, and kill literally thousands with impunity. And in 1949, Chairman Mao stood up in Tiananmen Square and announced the birth of New China and said the Chinese people have stood up. It literally electrified the whole of progressive humanity everywhere. Slowly but surely, through hard and painstaking work, through trials and tribulations, the Chinese people have come a long way since then. They have built a new China with a thriving economy, with great scientific achievements, as you saw recently with the spacewalk by one of the Chinese astronauts, which filled us with joy, not only the Chinese people, but progressive people everywhere, because we look forward to the achievements of socialism as a living example of what socialism can do for people, how a backward people, within a matter of 6 decades, can be transformed into one of the leading economic and scientific powers in the world. Whatever happened to China, through tragedy, as happened in the case of Sichuan earthquake, which claimed the lives of over 70,000 people, injured another 100,000 people, rendered 1 million people homeless, as well as joyous occasions like the spacewalk recently and the Beijing Olympics, the superiority of socialism shines through in tragedy. In tragedy as well as on joyful occasions. In tragedy, people put their shoulder to the wheel as members of one family, try and help each other. There's no shooting of looters. There's no shooting of people who are poor. There's no leaving of people behind in stricken areas just because they couldn't afford the transport. And you contrast that with the most rich country in the world, the United States of America. Just see the response to Hurricane Katrina 3 years ago. They still not cleaned up the mess. The Chinese have cleaned up the mess, built millions of homes for the homeless people in Sichuan. And it's a tribute not just to the Chinese. There's nothing special about the Chinese race. It's the superiority of socialism that has made them do it. And that is something. Through the building up of their economy, over the past decades, the Chinese comrades have lifted 400 million people out of poverty. This really must be a stunning example of the superiority of socialism when you consider that the world over, and that means especially in the vast continents of Asia, Africa, and Latin America, 13 million children die before they reach the age of 5 every year. 13 million children every year die. This is the equivalent of 2.5 Holocausts. So these hypocrites who stand every year and talk about we should never let Holocaust happen, actually are letting 2.5 Holocausts happen. That's in addition to the people they kill in wars, like a million people killed in the Iraq War. They kill people everywhere. And these are children whose names are not known to anybody. These are not children that are killed by somebody coming with a gun and killing them. They die peacefully in their mother's arms through hunger and malnutrition and easily preventable diseases. That is the cost that we pay for having the continued existence of imperialism. Present-day China can be contrasted with present-day capitalism. The Chinese have a thriving economy. They're building their country. And what is happening in the imperialist countries? These were people who were telling you, there's no need for socialism. We can solve all the problems. We can have continued prosperity. These days, no banker dare lend money to another banker. You don't know within 24 hours which bank is going to go bust. In the olden days, there used to be a saying in the financial circles that the opera is never over until the fat lady has sung. I.e., no crisis, financial crisis is over unless a big bank goes bust. These days, the fat lady sings every night. Every night you get up and you find another fat lady has sung and gone. And the bank after banks are failing. Banks which were household names, banks which were run by the so-called masters of the universe. Lehman Brothers, Merrill Lynch, Washington Mutual, Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae. These are not lovely, friendly aunts. These are extortionate financial sharks from the world of finance, capital, if you like. They're gone. And now they're having to have a bailout of over $700 billion. But nobody is sure that this will be enough. I'm sure they know it, but I warn the Chinese comrades, you might be approached for some money. They might want to say, well, look, you got the largest foreign currency reserves, you got $2 trillion. Wouldn't it be good to let us have another 100 billion? So that while they run down China, saying how undemocratic it is, how dictatorial it is, it's not doing this and the other, but when it comes to money, they really do not care where they get it from, and they might come to Chinese. They're telling the Chinese that you have no respect for human rights. What are human rights? I come from a third world country. What to me would be a human right? Not to be unemployed, to have a roof over my head, to have food security, and on top of that, to live in a country which is not threatened by foreign imperialism. The Chinese have achieved those basic human rights. Since 1949, the Chinese people have stood up and nobody dared attack China. In the olden days, it was a pastime. What do you do on Monday morning? You go and attack China. Well, France has attacked China. The Germans don't want to lag behind. Even silly little country like Denmark used to go and attack China. Well, they dare not attack China. Chinese have achieved dignity and sovereignty, if you like. They have given employment to their people. They brought food security. At a time when 13 million children are dying all over the world, the Chinese people do not go hungry. This is not to say everything is wonderful in China and China doesn't need improvement. Chinese comrades know they have a long way to go. But the fact of the matter is, the distance they have traversed so far is fantastic. And if every other country in the world could achieve what the Chinese have done, this world would be very much transformed.